I like to play video games. I also like reading books that have to do with video games, whether it's something like The Witcher or Ready Player One, BioShock, and what have you. So, I came across the book Polybius by Collin Armstrong. That's what we're going to talk about today. And this is about a arcade game with a more sinister nature. And what I didn't know when I started reading this is there was an actual urban legend that this is based on. Supposedly, the urban legend is Polybius is a purported 1981 arcade game. The game was supposedly a government-run, like crowdsourced psychology experiment based in Portland, Oregon. And gameplay supposedly produced these like intense psychoactive and addictive effects in the player. And there was like a few of these publicly staged arcade machines, and they were said to have been visited periodically by like the Men in Black. So the purpose of that was for them to data mine the machines and analyze the effects. And supposedly all these Polybius arcade machines then disappeared from the arcade market, never to be seen or heard about again. And so that's what this book is based on. We come to the story. There's this guy, Thomas Mazzy, and he works for this company. And what they do is when businesses close down, he and his team go in, they bring all the stuff in, and then they sell it, they auction off stuff, whatever, to make money off of that and resell it to different businesses and whatnot. And so they're doing this job, and they're at this place of business that had closed down, and it was called Sinisloken. I don't know how to say that, so forgive me for probably way mispronouncing that. And they've got almost everything, I think, out of the building. And then they find, once they've moved all the stuff out, there's this like doorway, this door frame, and there's no doorknob. There's two like locks on it, but there isn't like a way that seems to be to open this door. That's really weird. So they're like, let's get a crowbar and break it open. So they start to like break it open, and Tom has this like piece of paper in his pocket, and it gets like sucked in to the door, and it's like suctioned there, and he's like, oh, it's almost like a vacuum, which is weird. Eventually they get the door open, and in this room it's all white, it's all very clean, and apparently there's a separate ventilation system, and there's this arcade game. It's not plugged in at this point, but they look at it and they're like, okay, well, we'll get this out of here. And the other dudes all go back to work, and Tom like plugs it in, and the display is unlike anything that he'd ever seen at the time. So it's like 1982. So early 80s, like this is the days of like Atari and Pong and whatever. So super early on. And this is just like the colors just leap off the screen at you. And he starts to play this game. There's like this weird like maze, and it feels like this like figment is chasing him, and you got to outrun it. And then once he stops, because someone comes back in to ask him a question or something, and he doesn't remember anything. Like time basically evaded him. He had like missing time, and apparently he'd been playing the game for like, I think it was like 2 hours or something, while the other guys were like moving all this stuff out and whatnot. He starts to get really angry at the guy who comes in and was talking to him. He has like this hallucination where he murders this man. And at first you think he actually murdered him, but then it's just like it was a vision that he had, and then he comes back too. And it's like, what the F? Anyway, so they get all the stuff, and they get the game out of there, unplugged, and they load it all off, and all this stuff now goes to auction, as does this video game. And so we come to the town of Tasker Bay in California, and there is this video arcade run by this guy named Mal, and there's this girl, Andy, that works there. She wants to be a computer engineer when she graduates high school. Her mom divorced her dad, and they moved to this town, and all she wants to do is get through school. She doesn't want to have any attachments, doesn't really want to make any friends, so she works, and that's pretty much it. And she tries not to have any relationships and just focuses on her job at hand. Her boss is kind of a creep. He sells drugs out the back door. He's a bit lecherous, and he's a real piece of work. He's also very cheap. So when she told him that you can like buy arcade games on auctions, he started doing this. And so they end up getting this new game called Polybius. No one's ever heard of it. And he brings it in because he got it for super cheap, got a sweet deal on it. And before they put it on the floor, they, since it's all like white and there was really like no identification on the side, nothing except for on the screen, the name, they're gonna paint it and do some stuff to it. So it's not on the floor yet. But that first night, the boss, he ends up playing the game. Same thing happens to him that happened to that Thomas Mazzy guy. Like, he started playing it, and then, who knows, like, time just disappeared, and all of a sudden it had been several hours, and he doesn't know what happened. So he goes home. The next day, they put this game out, and people seem weirdly drawn to it. And Andy stares at it and watches quite a bit of this game. And it seems like all the people who play it or even just watch it, it starts to strangely affect them. And it affects people in different sorts of ways. Like the first night that this arcade game is on the floor, these two like football jock dudes get in a fight, and there's this other guy, Ro, who's the son of the sheriff in town. Ro kind of has a crush on Andy, so he's been trying to like work up the nerve to talk to Andy too. And these guys get in a fight, and are like, one of them's strangling the other, and this, that, and the other. Then Ro ends up breaking the fight because the one dude was gonna punch Andy or kick her in the ribs or something like that. Like he was very violently angry. And then like finally like came down and was like, oh, okay, like what? Like came out of like a trance. So people get in these like trance-like states of mind. They have these visions or memories that happened that didn't really actually happen. And then some people start to get really violent. And then bodies start to turn up. And then places start to be messed with. Stuff gets more violent, more people are being harmed, more people are being beat up, some are even murdered, and it just seems to escalate and escalate. And Andy is kind of thinking it's the video game that's doing this because none of this was happening before this came in, and she's been there and staring at it and seeing it the most, but it doesn't seem to affect her. Now, Andy is colorblind, so as you read through the book, you kind of catch on to the fact that, oh, it's not affecting her the same way as everyone else because she can't see the colors, and maybe it's the light patterns and stuff just aren't affecting her in the same way. And so eventually they try to track down like who made this game, like the company that made it, to find out if they can find any information. And Andy like put a message on like one of the news group boards that she belonged to, and she did get a hit from this guy, and eventually they are able to track him down and talk to him, and they find out some really effed up stuff that this seems to be like a thing that was being made for like government psyop, and it's freaking crazy. Who's gonna believe that a video game is causing all this? I don't know. And by the time that the people in town catch on, will it be too late? What will happen? It's a crazy book. I thought it was great. If you like horror that's from the 80s, that is like a crazy like urban legend tied to it that has to do with video games. It's fun, weird, it's pretty violent at some points. One thing that was a bit triggering for me, because I don't like it when animals are harmed. There is one scene in this that's kind of disturbing with animal death. You don't see the actual death, but it is described the aftermath, and that was a bit disturbing to me. So if you don't like any of that in your books, maybe skip this one. But otherwise, it's a great horror read. Also, if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.